Good morning, everybody.
This is the day. All my dreams come true.
How shocked at Bradford's look.
Feel the spirit work it its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and higher up in the sky.
Hi, everybody.
That the Lord has made, I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made, I will rejoice and be glad in it. One more time. This is the day that the Lord has made, I will rejoice and be glad in it.
Ask her. Woohoo!
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is ordained Reverend Clyde Goins. So we had an incredible, wonderful celebration last night. It was way more than I even ever expected it. So I really enjoyed everybody here celebrating with me, and the service was incredible. The musician was always incredible. Karen's always incredible, and the food was incredible. So I mean, it was just a perfect night. So we know how to celebrate. So we're just going to keep on celebrating. One more thing is, I haven't consulted Julie yet, but so is it okay if we give these out and then they bring the bases back?
Sure.
Do
Okay.
you have a plan for them?
No.
Is this one of those times you should say no?
Yeah.
No. No, as
So-
long as the vases come back, because those are not mine, and I don't want to be held responsible for losing them.
All right. So if you like to take one of these beautiful bouquets of flowers home with you, you can, but you have to bring the vase back. There's no reason for them to sit up here all week long. Take them home and put them on your calendar and enjoy. I'm taking one home and enjoy them, for a few days. They're beautiful. So please do it, but bring the vase back. Uh-oh, Kathy Rose is here. Is that okay, Kathy Rose?
Or pull the flowers out and wrap it in paper. Flowers out?
Yes.
I want their names.
Okay, we're gonna have a sign-up sheet as you walk out the door. All right, so that's how we do things here at the center. So if you're here at the center instead of online, you can enjoy all of this. Anyway, so we come together every Sunday to remember our truth, that we're whole, perfect, and complete just the way that we are. And so we do this by listening to beautiful music, by listening to Reverend Karen's incredible message, and just sitting there and being by ourselves and centering in that loving space. So our home, we call West Valley Center for Spiritual Living, is our spiritual home, and we recognize that this is our place where we come together to support one another and love one another as we are living this journey called life. So as we simply allow ourselves to open up and get ready for the service, we're going to start off with saying our vision statement. So if you can repeat the vision statement with me. We are a loving, joy-filled community, honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles. And so it is. So if you just sit back, open up your hearts and minds. Before we get into the meditation, we have a commercial break.
Oh.
Right.
The tone's so perfect.
Yeah.
We're going backwards.
We interrupt this service for a special message from your Gourmets for God goddesses. I want my G for G. Gourmet
Gourmets for God is part of this balanced life?
It sure is. It's the breakfast of champions and the lunch of, or the dinner of, you get the point.
We have 14 amazing events, both virtual and in person. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. You just want to sit back, snack, and pamper yourself with Reverend Karen at her ladies only event, or have a fully customizable experience at one of Sue Witter's Ask Me Anything sessions, or capturing photos of orbs while enjoying some otherworldly bites at Nancy Noel's orb party, or just kicking back on your couch with Netflix and eating a whole pan of Cheryl Copper's famous brownies.
You'll have to bid high for that one, though.
Honestly, people, you want to bid on these experiences. They're great!
Bidders wanted. Bid today after the service in Pepke Hall. You can register and bid in person or by phone until noon today. See the newsletter for the Gourmets of God section on the website at easy for me to say, www.wvcl.com. Too many W's.
VCSL.com.
There you go. You get it. Sorry. For the information on phone bids and the event listing to get your last minute bids in. And don't ever let a dyslexic something with that many W's.
Events designed for your bidding pleasure. Check your calendars before placing your bids, and don't forget to bid separately for your spouse or your friend to join you. The limited number of spots for each event will go only to the highest individual bidders. Remember, there are events for every budget.
That's right. Some spots are starting as low as $10. Bidding ends today, so don't make a run for the border. Make a run for the bidding.
Get over there after the service or call us on the special Gourmets for God hotline listed in your auction catalog or on the website and bid yourself silly. And don't forget to
Eat, drink, love. Gourmets for God. It's the only fundraiser you can eat. And now we return to your regularly scheduled programming.
Okay, so everybody take a breath. Let's bring it down a couple of notches now. So thank you, Julie. Yes, we are bidding today, right here in Pepke Hall, so if you can go over there. If you're online, please call in to bid. But again, so if we can just simply relax, sit back in our chairs, open up our hearts and minds, and open ourselves up for the Bradford's beautiful music, and knowing what's going to follow is an incredible message from our wonderful, loving Reverend Karen. Thank you.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
And here, in this quiet place, we come together knowing that there is one power, one spirit, one activity of life that exists in, through, and as me, in, through, and as everyone in this room, online with us, either in person or at a later time. In fact, within everyone, everywhere. And I know that that incredible divine power is that which is flowing through us here today. It is the power that invigorates and enlivens this service. It opens our hearts so that we hear in a new way the message that Reverend Karen gives today, that is the divine flowing through her to us. The Bradford's music, as always, lifts us. I know that there is nothing that can stand in the way of this extraordinary flow of the divine. So I simply release this service out into it with a grateful heart, knowing that the universe always says yes. And so it is. My reading today is from a fabulous book by Eric Butterworth called In the Flow of Life. In the chapter, The Effusion of Light. Guidance is not a special act of God or a phenomenon dealing with some exterior force acting upon man. Natural guidance is divine, and divine guidance is natural. Man is a creature of light. Thus, even if we frustrate it through fear, we are always in the flow of guidance. If we pray to God out there for light and guidance, our prayer may actually block the flow of light and guidance from within. The need is to listen, to get into the consciousness of the flow. Light is an omnipresent reality. We do not have to reach it, or even reach for it, but to give up the very desire to reach, to be still and know that I am in the flow. In his book, Talks with Great Composers, Arthur Abel quotes Brahms as saying, "I always contemplate my oneness with the Creator before I commence to compose. I immediately feel the vibrations that thrill my whole being. I see clearly what is obscure in my ordinary moods. Straight away the ideas flow in upon me, measure by measure. The finished product is revealed." Just allow yourself to open to that divine flow. So it is.
We did this last night, so this is one more time we're doing it, so I hope you guys like it.
Can you hear the guitar again, Duncan? Ready?
Yep. I close my eyes and I can see a world that's waiting up for me, that I call my own. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, but it feels like home. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care, so call me crazy. We can live in a world that we design, 'cause every night A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. There's a house we can build. Every room inside is filled with things from far away. Special things I compile, each one there to make you smile on a rainy day. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care, so call me crazy. We can live in a world that we design. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. However big, however small, let me be part of it all. Share your dreams with me. You may be right, you may be wrong, but say that you'll bring me along to the world you see, to the world I close my eyes to see. I close my eyes to see. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. For the world we're gonna make.
That was so beautiful, thank you, and so lovely to carry that, everything that we built last night and to feel it here in the sanctuary this morning, to feel it again. So good morning, thank you all for being here, and that song makes me cry. That is so everything I believe and I stand for, and it reminds me very much of the line in the John Lennon song, the Imagine song, where he says, "I know I'm not the only one." I feel that same emotion when you say that I may look crazy here, but man, that feels like my life. And thank you, Reverend Clyde, thank you for getting ordained. Thank you for giving us a really good party. We had such an amazing experience and a lovely turnout, and so many participants that just did an excellent job. So we are indeed moving in a little afterglow energy, and that feels really wonderful, and it brings a lot of excitement and emotion with us as well. And I'm so happy that I wrote this talk before. I had to write this talk ahead of time in order to fit in all the details that we had to manage, and then it just turns out that song is so perfect. So they were going to do something else. They were going to go home and work more after their late night event. And I asked them to please come back and do that piece again, because I want to talk about it this morning. I want to add that into the message that I'm delivering, which is about doing our part. The title of my message is Doing My Part. So that each and every one of us has this opportunity to really, you hear that, doing my part. And so the first thing that runs through our minds is, well, what is my part? Are you wondering, Rod?
I have been wondering.
Okay, I'm going to help you out here. And I think that when I hear that piece of music, my part has to do with that, being one of a million people willing to dream. See, that theme aligns to our global heart statement, which we have on the wall over here. We have a shortened version of it. And it's a beautiful statement where we declare that we believe it is possible to be part of creating a world that works for everyone. In fact, we go so far as to say for all living beings. And I adore being part of a spiritual faith that is based on such a vision, because that's what our founder had in mind for us. When our founder dedicated his life, Dr. Ernest Holmes dedicated his life to studying how spiritual ideas work in a real practical way in our lives. It's everything that comes from the lyrics of that song. It's about being a part of creating this world that we imagine in our mind and knowing that it could be. And it is a world that we are actively creating right now. And I love that line where it says it's a world that we are designing. And that so fits for me with that line from, a book title from Dr. Ernest Holmes. He has a whole book that's called A New Design for Living. In 2020, I spoke out of that book every single Sunday. I used a quote from that book through the entire pandemic, through that whole season of not knowing what was going on. So I feel passionate about it, and I love that we're speaking on this in the afterglow of Reverend Clyde's beautiful, beautiful ordination. The quote that I want to share with you from Dr. Holmes, where I got the title of the message this morning, comes from This Thing Called You. And here's what he said. Cultivating your own thought, living in continuous expectancy and affirmation, knowing the truth in season and out of season, you are doing your part. The law will never fail you. When we do that, right? When we cultivate our own thoughts, where we're intentionally grooming the direction of our thinking, and we're being conscious in our movement through life, and living in that continuous expectancy of those affirmations and those ideas, the yearnings in our heart, then what we're doing is, no matter whether you're having a good season or not a good season, it doesn't matter. You stand in that truth, and then there is a universal principle that we sometimes refer to as spiritual law that corresponds to all of that. So this is a very important message this morning. Last night there was a part in your ordination, Clyde. I flashed on it this morning while I was rehearsing all this. And it's a part of the script. So if you were here last night, you will notice that some of it we were just having fun, and some of it was a very formal, ceremonial part of the ordaining, the official ordaining. And that in that script, I read these words. This ordination, are you getting the heebie-jeebies? Are you having a deja vu, Reverend Clyde? This ordination demonstrates your sincerity and your commitment to an ever-enlarging dream of growth in consciousness that will lift the human spirit and heal a troubled world. What a gorgeous line. I loved flashing back on that and pulling it and seeing how perfectly you sang to that, you played to that, you prayed to that, you read about that. And all of that is a part of the whole. So this is a beautiful, relevant message that is really enhances this idea that we have such an effective teaching, that we have a spirituality that has practical application, and it works. And our only job, I loved how Reverend Noli said this last night as she was reading before she read the Declaration of Principles, that's why we call this science, that we prove it. And so we know things like if we change our thinking, we change our lives. We know that we are transformed when we renew our minds. We know that just as the great teacher said, as you believe, it is done unto you. So we know all of that. And yet, these are just ideas until we do our part to make them actual, to bring them to life. So when Reverend Clyde spoke last night, when it was finally his turn to speak, he had such emotion. His presence was just filled with this, you could read it on him, that there was this visceral acknowledgement of what happened in that ceremony. And he shared with us a little bit about his path, and one of the things I noticed was that he said to all of us, that his biggest turning point, his transformational experience that anchored him in this faith, was that he came to realize through taking classes that he was not broken. And you know, Reverend Clyde, I don't know if you even know it, I think you said that 4, possibly 5 times in your short little thing. I am not broken. And he said it with such passion that you could see how life-changing it was for him to come to realize that truth. Every minister must know what that transformational moment was. And we all personalize it in our own ways. I think it all boils down to the same thing, but for me, it was more the way that I felt it in my experiences, and I'm not going to tell my story today, though many of you have heard it, because we're supposed to tell you a lot, so you know this stuff really works. But for me, it was about recognizing I had been living too small, that there were some limitations, there were some ways I thought I couldn't have the good things in my life that I desired. And then, as I continued to study and I began to stretch my consciousness to be more and more open and to create a greater receptivity for good in my own life, then suddenly it was easy to see. It's like, oh my goodness. It's like it is a transformational moment of recognition that we've been living too small. And for me, the second piece of that was that life wasn't out to hurt me. That life supports me. That everything about the way life is organized, it is done so to support us so that we might show up and participate at the highest level we possibly can. I had to learn there was nothing to fear. I had a lot I was afraid of in the world, and that was a big part of my healing or my transformational experience that then carried me into ministry. So what's your part? See, my part was to figure that out. Clyde's part was to figure out his piece, and we all have the same thing. And I think ultimately for me, what it feels like it all together, what it comes down to is freedom. It comes down to a greater sense of freedom. Holmes has a chapter in the very front of the Science of Mind textbook, and it's in the opening page. The chapter might be called The Road to Freedom. I can't remember. It might be actually The Road to Freedom is the title of the chapter. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
And it's like 2.5 paragraphs, and he says, he uses the word freedom like 6 times. I haven't counted recently, but it's phenomenal to imagine that could be the link that links all of our transformations in the same way. Somehow we own a sense of greater freedom, and we're no longer limited. We're no longer out just trying to prove ourselves to the world. We start living a beautiful life. So what will it take for you to do your part and to own your freedom and to see that you are not broken? What will it take for you to do your part and see that there's an even greater way to view the universe, to understand what God is? Because, you know, I think as long as we keep asking that question, I think it's a good question, you know, so what is my part? You would kind of like me to hand it to you and tell you exactly what that is so you could do it. There are other religions where they tell you what your part is. But we really understand that spirit is this vast, diverse expression of life, and that there aren't two of us that are going to have the same expression. So as long as we're asking that question, that's a really good sign, because as long as we're asking, then we're calling forward more light, more hope, more possibility, not just in our own lives, but hope for the world. You know, we can then stand aligned to that dream with a million other souls that are doing the same. The question itself, what is my part to do, implies that our answer makes a difference. And you know, that's what I really want you to know today, is the way that we individually show up in the world is how we make a difference in the world. The more that we realize that, the more effective we get in how we participate, and in fact how we move through our life and how we relate to the people we encounter in our life, not just family, but every relationship. So what I know is, if I'm going through a period in my life, and I have, where I don't like my life very much, and I don't do anything about it, then I'm walking around with an energy that says, don't like. Right? It's the whole energetic of the way I show up in life. So I can fake it, you know, through things. But the bottom line is that if I don't like my life, and I don't recognize that my awareness of not liking it is the call to how I can do my part in a different way or a new way, then I'm just going to continue not liking life. If I am angry about the inequalities I see in the world, or I'm angry about politics, then the energy that I'm carrying around is anger, or worse yet, as we've witnessed in recent years, the rage. And so if I am aware, if I can train myself to pay attention to that discord in my body and recognize that my anger is getting my attention, it will call me directly to a way I can renew how I do my part on the planet. So, I mean, it's easy to see. In that case, it would be to be less angry, to figure out what is it that's pushing my buttons, and how can I approach life in a way where I can be effective and I can apply practical spirituality and function and be a contributor of good to that great million dreams. Furthermore, if I find that I'm startled still by the news, and I'm afraid of what the next variant of the virus is going to look like or be like in my life, then I am carrying around an energy that says the world is not safe for me to be in. And if I don't think the world is safe, I'm going to be in the world very defended. And when we are defended, we are closed off, we are more separated from each other, and it's not a healthy way for us to help heal the planet. So we want to notice those things, because each of those, all of the discord, if we are courageous enough to look at it, to recognize it, we will see that it is a very personal call to us as individuals. It's nobody else's call. It's your very personal call to do your part to change the energy and the way you carry yourself through the world. Now, maybe that means that doing our part is about being honest with how we feel and how we're impacted by what's going on in the world and how we're affected by the relationships in our lives. To really not, we have been accused of being good, positive thinkers, but this is not turning our back on the discord. I am talking about using the discord, using the feeling, acknowledging it, and then using it as a divine illumination to guide you to what is next for you to do as whatever your part is. And I'll tell you something. I do not think that the great creator that created all of this life, and that we can witness the perfect order in so many ways, the things in nature, things that are, as Emerson would say, things that are not man-made, things that only God could do, right? As we notice that, it becomes apparent to me anyhow, I don't think God created us to ignore discord. You know, you could say that little weed that burst through the crack in the driveway or the sidewalk, you could say that little weed met a little resistance, had a little discord in its decision to grow there. And yet life insists on that forward movement. So I think we feel things because we were intended to feel them. And I think as we look at what we don't like, as we look at the things that frighten us, as we're willing to look at the things that upset us that are going on in current events, acknowledge that this doesn't feel good, this isn't how I want to feel, and this isn't the kind of energy I want to carry around while I'm moving through my day-to-day. You know, there's a reason it doesn't feel good, and that's because it's not natural. It's not our natural state to be disturbed. Disturbance calls us to treatment. So let's not lose sight of that. I think there have been sagey, holy people throughout humanity, throughout the ages, that have spoken and written and created music around the beauty and the order that exists in this universe. And I think that it's no accident that the tribal wisdom, the shaman or the medicine woman in the tribe knows that if there's an ailment, that there has to be something growing nearby that will heal whatever that ailment is. So in the indigenous traditions, there's a belief that things grow where they are needed. I read a story of in the Onondaga tribe in northern New York, that the wisdom says, if you get into some poison ivy, you're climbing and you pull up and you see that the vine now is a poison ivy or poison oak, and you've got it all over you, that you need to now look through the poison ivy for the succulent that grows with it. And you take the succulent and you break it open and you smear it all over your hands and wherever you've touched it, and then it nullifies the poison, right? You treat it. It's almost, and it's not an accident. In the indigenous tribes, they do not believe it's an accident that it grows together. So it reminds me of the wisdom that we speak about all the time. We say it, but we don't see the practical connection. And that is that, you know, the answer is already given. The cure is already here. And it's up to us to do our part, to be part of the solution then. So eventually, as we age and as we get wiser and we come to realize that the whole universe is organized in this way to support life, then we can now go back to that opening quote I read from Dr. Ernest Holmes, where he said, cultivate your thought. Cultivate your own thought. Live in a state of expectancy, and then the law will never fail you. See, it's not about using the law to get something you want. We're talking about living in principle here. We're talking about the more you cultivate your thought to just live this life in the way that Reverend Clyde so beautifully illustrated, and the way that everybody that talked about you, Reverend Clyde, they all said the same thing, that you live this life, right? It's not a philosophy that he just teaches or studies. He lives it, and I really think you should really take that in. That is an ultimate compliment. So the thing about doing our part is that eventually we all come to learn that, you know, as we do good for each other, we reap more good in our own life. Right? These wise words have been around and said in every religious tradition and recorded and repeated. So we want to always be building on our own experiences so that we come to learn there's a ripple effect in kindness and in generosity and in doing the right thing. You know, we know that in the same way that Laughter has a contagion to it. Goodness does too. I wanted to share with you a beautiful story that came across my desk this week that's so perfectly fitting for this topic. And it's a true story about a farmer in the Midwest who grew award-winning corn. He grew the best corn in the whole state of Kansas or somewhere. I don't know. I made up that part. Iowa. Is Iowa the corn? Okay. Okay. All right. It must have been Iowa then. I have it on authority. It was Iowa. And he, every year at the county fair, he would win the blue ribbon for having the best corn in the state. So it had to be a state fair then. It couldn't have been a county fair. And so one year, a newspaper reporter came to interview him and was asking him all these questions about his award-winning corn. And the reporter learns that the farmer takes the seed corn. So you harvest the crop, but Mr. Alaska's looking at me like to see if I'm going to say this properly. Because he knows about this stuff. Maybe not corn. They don't grow corn in Alaska, I'm just going to guess. Short season, right? Short window. Okay, good. Then I can fudge a little. The reporter learns that the farmer gives away his seed, his prime corn seed, to all the farmers around him. And the reporter says, well, isn't that counterproductive? You know, they're going to grow your corn, and one year they're going to beat you. They're going to take that prize away from you. You're not going to get the blue ribbon at the fair. And the farmer said this. He said, it's like this. In the summertime, when the corn is ripe, the wind blows. And when the wind picks up, the pollen from the ripening corn begins to swirl from field to field. Now, if my neighbors grow inferior corn, cross-pollination will over time degrade the quality of my corn. And so, if I want to grow good corn, I gotta help my neighbors grow good corn. Mr. Alaska's nodding. Oh, good. I think I did good.
We do grow 100-pound cabbages in Alaska.
Ooh, 100-pound cabbage in Alaska. Woo! That'd be a sight. You need to send me text me a picture of one of those. I'd like to see that. So the farmer understands. People that live in the land understand the connectedness of life in the same way the indigenous women knew how to cure the poison ivy. Holmes said, cultivate your own thought. And what I see is, we do that in season and out of season, because we have to do our part to plant the seeds of truth. There's a lot of not truth in the world. Anything on an extreme of either side, you know there's some not truth. There's a little more not truth in it than you're going to find if you look for the truth in the middle. That's what Dr. Ernest Holmes did. He looked at every spiritual tradition. He looked for that thread of truth that rings true in all faiths. And that's what we are based upon. So there's a lot of cross-pollination going on in the world right now. And it may appear that people are not cultivating their own thought in the way you would like them to cultivate their own thought. And it's really easy to ride that wave of discord with all the other loud voices. But I'm challenging you this morning to do your part to break free of that, to plant your best seeds in all of your work. Life is messy. Life has been really messy lately. But at the same time, there are a million dreams right now of what this world could be. Do not lose sight of that. Ministers all over this country and spiritual leaders around the globe are wondering what we do now. What do we do now? Churches are closing, buildings are being sold. A lot is going on in the world, and I, as a spiritual leader, speak every month to the board about these things. And we have been keeping our eye on what we need to do, and we are doing quite well. And I would say to you that we want to continue to do quite well. So when we do stewardship next month, I want to plant some seeds right now. We always do our stewardship program in the month of November, and I want you to just open your heart and to know that more than ever before, we need those stewardship cards back so that we can plan a budget in a very uncertain economy. And we know that, we're really blessed to have a building that's paid for, but we have staff that we pay, and we have all our utilities and all of that stuff that goes on. So really put that in your heart to think about how you want to commit to your giving for 2022 so that we can continue to thrive and be a presence, be a colorful, bold, beautiful presence in the West Valley so that we can continue doing what we're doing. I'm proud of us. We've done some crazy things in some really weird times, and I'm certain that we will continue to do well. But there are ministers that agree with me and that stand aligned to the possibility of the continuance of church going. We may not always look like this or call it this. I don't know what will happen. So it's those youngins. We just can't seem to drag the youngins in anymore. But I found a quote from a Unitarian Universalist minister, Reverend Mark Morrison, who said these words, and I wholeheartedly agree. The spiritual community is essential. See, I don't think church is going anywhere. I think that some churches will definitely not be churches. This church isn't going anywhere. Spiritual community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen. But together, when we come together in community, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. Maybe we do that every Sunday, right? We come together and we listen online. If we're not here in the room, we have a new way of gathering. And so I love that idea of a wider view, a greater vision, and stronger possibilities. We know that where two or more gather and stand on a spiritual foundation, that all of the possibilities expand. And it makes sense to me because we all bring something different. We all have a part to do, but we all have a different part to do. And I'm so grateful because I can't do what Reverend Clyde does. I can't do what the president of the board, Ed Price, does. I can't do what any of you do, but I sure do what I do well. And I love what I do, and I'm going to keep doing it. And
Amen.
thank you. Because we cannot diminish our desire for that world, for those dreams about a world we're building, that we are designing right now. Einstein and some other scientists of his day and of current days, they began talking about quantum physics. And what they tell us is that there's this thing they call quantum entanglement. I like that term. And it briefly, or in a simple try at explaining what it means, it's just that we are intricately and eternally connected to each other, to all things. And that will never change. And so when they talk about quantum theory, they talk about the way there are these subatomic particles that once they were joined, and if they sever it and they separate the particles, this is what they've proved in quantum physics. Once they separate them, that they're still connected, that what the movement and the changes that happen here are reflected here no matter how great the distance is. And we understand that because we have all had relationships. We have all had connections with other people. And it explains a lot to me in trying to understand that intimate way we are, humanity is connected not only to each other but to life, because we are entangled together in this beautiful web of life. And I challenge you to see the beauty of that entanglement. Holmes said it this way in his own words. He said, "We are bound together in this unity called God." Is that great? We are bound together in this unity called God. God as life. You know, these are synonyms. There is no separation. These are not two things. So it is only natural that we feel the pain of the people we love and care about, or the pain we read in the newspaper and we hear of tragedies going on in the world. It is only natural that we would feel that pain, because that is what compassion is. It's only when we don't feel it that something has gone wrong. So let's do our part. We are here to bring our light. We are here to, when I can't bring the light, I need to know there are people in my life that will carry that torch for me until I can walk through the murky stuff in my own experience. And when we do that together, we are beautiful. And so I wanted to close this morning with a quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes that is so striking. I thought it would be a perfect way to end. Hopefully I won't talk around it afterwards. Here's what he said. "The person who goes deeply into his or her own nature will find that God speaks in a language more subtle than the human language, without a tongue. It is a universal language. It is a language of emotions and of sense and of feeling and of intuition. And sometimes we call it a vision, and sometimes we call it a dream. It makes no difference what you call it. What it is a direct revelation of omniscience through us. It is a direct revelation of divine wisdom shining through us. So do your part. Do your part. Cultivate your thoughts. Stand in expectation of the good you desire to see. Be a part of designing this new world that we are now creating together. And I think I would like to pray on that. So I invite you to just get comfortable where you're seated. There it is. And if you need to move your hands or arms, shake out a little tension, I want you to get loose and comfortable so that you can just feel the love moving in this room right now. We've had some high holy days here in the West Valley. And I can feel the love that's just permeated in the walls of this sanctuary and in the carpeting and in the tiles above our heads. There's something here. It is a healing force. It is the presence of God. And it is right here, right now. How wonderful to remember to renew ourselves in that conscious way, in that intentional way, to know that we are not limited in any way, for the fullness of God is right at the center of our very own being. All of the light, all of the love that created this universe, all of the wisdom of all the intelligence in this beautiful universe, all of it is right there. We are a drop in the ocean. And we allow ourselves to become a part of the whole so that we might be carried in the ebb and the flow and the movement of that divine sea of life. I feel the love of God, and I recognize that it is the way that we are unified in that great, beautiful, spiritual sense. We recognize our oneness, and in that space of recognition, we unify with the perfection that exists always right where we are. And so something happens within us as we allow ourselves to receive this truth, to remember again, to renew our awareness of that presence of life within us. We are renewed, we are raised, we are lifted, and we are healed. So whatever it is that has appeared to ail us in a physical way, we open ourselves now to that grace of God, to become aware of that movement of life within us, and to know that those healing powers are awakened and they are renewing every cell of our being right now. That there is a wholeness that is being revealed in this open and receptive posture. And as this is true for us, this is also true for our loved ones. And this is true for those who are ailing from any diagnosis that could be. It's simply nullified in the presence of truth. And so what a joy it is to know that we serve life because it is holy, not because it is broken. And as we breathe in these words, we realize that this blessing now extends out into all of our relationships. That we have unified with that presence of love, that great force of love in this universe. And that love heals all appearances. For it is a divine light that allows us to see the presence of God in the eyes of every human being. How grateful I am to know that we do have a place to come and to worship and to pray and to celebrate and to remember that we are not broken, we are not limited. We do not have to move through this life defended and afraid, that we are free forever and always. And so I feel that movement of life, that flow of good, and we just continue to open ourselves to receive those blessings. We allow the Spirit of God to wash over us even now. And in that sense of quickening within us, we can stand resolute and know that all is well in our world. All is well because we are not afraid to do our part. And so I say thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite Spirit. How amazing it is to be a part of a spiritual community wherein we share these beautiful truths. And in that spirit of gratitude, I simply release the words of this prayer into the law, knowing that it is already fulfilled. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
All right, thank you, Bradford. So now's the time to remember the abundance of planting our seeds for our future, not only in our lives, but the lives of our community. So we have our giving affirmation that is coming up on the bulletin. There it is. I want to remind everybody about the flowers. I've got the sign-up sheet right here to get your phone numbers. And if you would like call to prayer afterwards, we have a practitioner available. Just come right up to the front here and we will be happy to pray with you. So let's say our giving affirmation together. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Let me make sure on this.
Please rise for our last song.
To that song. And I'll tell you something, when you guys all go, oh, we all do that together, I love that part. So just a quick announcement, I'm teaching Emma Curtis Hopkins starting this week on Thursday afternoons. Start the 21st, it'll go through 4 weeks. November 11th, it will be the last day. And we meet at 1 p.m. We'll be meeting here. It is in person only. And if you have not registered for that class, just show up. It'll be a fairly small group, so we have room to spread out. And we're having a really good time with the little classes. So come join us if that looks of interest to you. And all the details are in the newsletter. And I think we should close out with an affirmation. Let's do something we like. Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
It is this thing called life.
It is this thing called life.
I am open to do my part. Therefore, all is well.
All is well.
All is well.
All is well.
Amen, amen. Thanks for being here. I love you. Remember, pray often and love much.